Hey guys, welcome to the Hope and Healing with Terry podcast. I am your host, Terry Donahue. So today we're going to talk about some content that you may not want your kids around for. Maybe you do, it's totally up to you. But we are going to talk a little bit about human sex trafficking. So something to consider while deciding if you want your child to stay around for that. So, a few years ago, some friends and I, we went to a movie. I don't remember for what we saw, but we went to a movie and then we stopped by there for ice cream. So, as we're standing in line, I'm a super social person, so I talk to the people. So there were two like older teenage girls in line. I think they were behind us. And of course, I'm talking to them and their grandpa is smiling and we're having a whole conversation about the ice cream and what flavor we want and all of that. And when we left, my friend said, "Those girls are paid." Now, I'm a little naive and I'm a little slow, so I'm sitting there thinking, "What in the heck is she talking about?" And then it realized that she was talking to me about human trafficking. And she recognized things that I didn't recognize because I didn't grow up in that world. And it's not something I'd really at that point heard a lot about. But she did grow up in that world and she was a victim, or I should say, an overcomer of child human trafficking. So, she kind of taught me a little bit. But through the years, my knowledge has grown, and now I'm almost done with my master's degree. I'm getting a degree in social work because my goal is to be a therapist. Now, as I'm getting closer to graduation, I'm really just seeing where God leads me because maybe He's still leading me to be a therapist, but maybe he's not. Mental health in the state of Oklahoma, and maybe wherever you are also, is really frustrating. I feel like our state does not care about education and they do not care about mental health, and you can see it everywhere. I think our state is like 48th or 49th in the nation, and that's out of 50 states, y'all. That's bad, right? So obviously, our people are suffering, our young children are suffering, people who grew up neglected or abused are suffering at an exponential rate. They don't have a strong background of feeling supported. So, human trafficking is not just the things that we see in the movies and we see on the news. There are kids who are being taken, that's real, but it's not as common as some of the other things that predators are using now. These predators are getting more advanced, and there are places on the dark web teaching people how to groom children and be better predators. Scary, right? Parents need to be aware of the risks and dangers. I don't want anyone to live in fear. I don't want you to think, oh my gosh, something's going to happen. I don't want you to be filled with anxiety or anything like that. But knowledge is power, and I hope to increase your knowledge today. The sad truth is that some kids make better targets than others. Another sad reality is parents may even be groomed without realizing. These predators are master manipulators. Y'all, they know what they're doing. Children who have already been victims to abuse, whether it be sexual in nature, neglectful, physical, whatever it is, they make stronger targets for predators. Children who feel that they are not understood by their parents or their peers, children who have lower self-esteem, or children with disabilities are more likely to be targeted. The best way to protect your child is to be in their business, be in their conversations, look at their phones, know their friends, show up for school events and sports, be present in their life. And I know a lot of parents are like, oh my gosh, I don't want to be all up in their business. You're their parent. Like, you have the right to do that. It's your responsibility, in my opinion, to protect them. So, last month I attended a human trafficking workshop. It was another eye opening experience for me. A parent spoke. We all encouraged her to write a book. The things that she shared about her and her story were just phenomenal, and I would love to hear it again. Like most parents, she and her husband wanted the best for their daughter. She and her husband both worked outside of the home. She's an RN. They provided everything that their daughter needed. They worked long hours. They weren't always around, but financially, this child had everything that she could possibly need. She was groomed for human sex trafficking at school. I'm not going to lie. I was genuinely shocked and completely alarmed when she shared this information. But then again, look at the news around you. Look at the world that we live in. How many teachers, coaches, and principals around you have been arrested for sexual misconduct? I read about a principal not far from me just the other day. Um, Even after that, I saw about a teacher who was involved in helping kids be victims to sexual abuse and trafficking after that. So guys, it's happening everywhere. There's a cheer coach in my district. So honestly, looking at all this information, it shouldn't be as shocking to find out that her daughter was groomed at school. Hopefully, we all look at our child's school a little closer. And honestly, I'm just going to say anywhere that your child goes, be aware of who's there and who they are. Um, Another thing is people need to listen to children. I remember when I was in the eighth grade, I had trouble with a teacher at school. This teacher made me feel so uncomfortable, and I did not want to be around this teacher. He was my science teacher. He always made the girls who wore skirts sit in the front row. He was also known to look down shirts when helping a female student. I missed a test one time. I had been sick, and he decided he had planning hour first, and it would be a great time for me to come in and make up that test. He said that he would give my first hour teacher a note. So I went into the classroom. I sat in my usual seat. I sat in the back of the room. He sat right next to me and started giving me the answers. He was so close to me, and I just wanted to scream and I wanted to run. I did not feel comfortable and I did not want to be there, but I stayed. I was terrified of why this man was giving me the answers. Me and a couple other students later went to our counselor and spoke to our counselor, whose job it was to listen to us and help protect us. Instead, she made excuses for him. She told us that he has a daughter. He drives a church bus. He goes to church. So that means that automatically he's a great guy. And what, we made it up? We lied? I'm not really sure where she was going with that. Um, which reminds me, you can look at your church too, because anywhere where children are, that's where predators are going to be. Again, I'm not trying to scare you because not every single person out there is a predator, but you just need to be aware of the people around your kids, right? Um, so in this instance, we were not the first ones to come and talk to her, and we certainly were not the last. In fact, even to this day, if I mention this teacher's name, people know who he is. Um, Later that afternoon, I got on the school bus, and there were some ninth grade girls who knew exactly who we were talking about, and they had done the same thing the year before. They had also reported that teacher. Now, I wish at that time I knew to talk to my parents. I honestly don't think it ever occurred to me or crossed my mind. And I want my son to know that no matter what's going on, he can come talk to me. In fact, if his teachers do anything that upset him, chances are I've heard about it, even if it is minor. But I like that. I'm glad that he feels comfortable coming and talking to me and that we've set that bar. Um, my parents had no idea anything was going on. And I know for a fact if they did, they would have done something about it. Well, I did get out of that teacher's class, totally unrelated reason. I went home sick one day. We had an ice storm, and my sister came and got me, and then I was sick. So I missed school for a couple days. And apparently during that time, there was a drug bust. And this teacher had the nerve to tell my class that I was part of that drug bust. So one of my friends, being awesome that she is, called me at school that or at home that night and said, "Hey, do you know what he said?" And so the next day that I went to school, my dad drove me up there, and we were in the principal's office first thing, and I never saw that teacher again. I was never in that teacher's class again. I was removed. Teacher still taught. Um, I don't know for how long. He doesn't teach now, and I don't know what the circumstances around him not teaching, but that's also been a while. So sometimes I'll see this guy around, and he knows my husband. We both went to that school, and I'm pretty sure he knows who I am. He'll sit and talk to David, and I just give him dirty looks. And my husband knows that I do not like this man. So let's go back to human trafficking, though, because there's a lot of things that people need to know. Human trafficking is when someone tricks, forces, or manipulates a person into working or doing sex acts against their will. Not all human trafficking is sex related, some is working. Um, it isn't just about kidnapping. Traffickers use lies, threats, or emotional manipulation to control their victims. So, trafficking can involve forced labor, domestic work, sexual exploitation, and it can happen in any community, even to people who seem to be living free. Okay. You don't know something's going on with them. A lesser known form of human sex trafficking that I've heard of is a parent who sold their child. Let me kind of further explain that because this can happen in front of most of us without knowing anything is wrong. Before learning this, it could have happened in front of me. I wouldn't have had a clue. But now I watch the world a little bit differently than I used to. Um, say you go to Six Flags. I'm just going to use Six Flags as an example, but it could be anywhere. And there's a little girl in a bathroom, and again, it can be a boy too, and she's in a stall by herself. A concerned dad, I say dad loosely, comes in looking for his daughter and asks the women in there to help him find her. And she's scared, and he asks permission to come in. So, women, most of us, we want to help and we want this child to be safe, right? So, of course, we're going to most likely allow this man to come in and get his daughter. So, he goes in, and the child leaves with him. Seems innocent. Dad sent her in alone and she didn't come back out. He's concerned. The reality is, if that is a human trafficking situation, the child was left intentionally for this person to come to get her or him. The child willingly leaves with the person. They're used to this. This is something that's not new to them. It happens for them all the time. Um, the person that takes them to Six Flags makes them feel special. They spend the day with them. They get to ride rides. They get, treats. They get to do whatever. They get to feel like a child for a day, and they have somebody's attention and love. They feel important, and they can do, whatever they want. Whose child doesn't love that, right? However, they will also be abused later. But for a little bit, they got to feel like a normal kid who looked like they were having fun with a parent at Six Flags. The first time I heard about human trafficking was in a book I was reading. It was a book by Karen Kingsbury called Divine. And I remember I stayed up, and this was years ago. I stayed up all night reading this book because I was so furious that a child could be treated like this. Because, I don't know about you guys, but I've lived in a pretty sheltered life and I didn't know these things happen. But I wanted to know how the book ended. I wanted to know what happened to this child because I couldn't believe the things she was going through. I'm happy to say the book does have a happy ending. She used the horror and trauma that she went through to help other people after she grew up. So, the mom I met at this human trafficking seminar I attended is using her story to help other families. Her family is still deep in human sex trafficking, and she did make sure to point out to us it wasn't human trafficking, it was human sex trafficking. And until she did that, I really didn't think much of separating the two terms, but not all trafficking is sex related. She and her husband moved their daughter to Hawaii, thinking they could get her away from it all, move her out of the situation where she was. There are times she will disappear to the mainland because she is still deep in that world. It's not an easy road to travel. They are doing the best that they can. They gave their daughter a home and love, but they cannot save her until she is willing to save herself. Traffickers may get these children addicted to drugs or keep them where they cannot escape. So there's more facets to it than most of us realize. Another speaker at the seminar was a woman who had been in human sex trafficking, and she taught me terms I've never heard before, and in fact, I don't remember them all. This world is not something the majority of us know anything about, but to save others, we need to know more. We need to quit hiding our heads in the sand and learn what is happening around us. She feels she was groomed as a child by an abusive dad. Children who have been abused or neglected have an increased risk of falling victim to human trafficking. There are websites set up to teach predators how to groom children and parents. So, parents, that's happening to you too, and you don't know it. Um, when TikTok shut down for a day, there were so many posts on social media that if the government can shut down TikTok, they can shut down human trafficking. The sad reality is, I don't believe that to be the case. There's so much more to human trafficking than most of us realize, and there's so many different paths and webs to get there. There's so many layers. It's not just one website or one app. It's something happening around the world at an alarming rate. So there are pedophiles everywhere. Okay. Grooming is the process of building trust to exploit a child emotionally, sexually, or financially. Also save sextortion for another podcast because that's a whole other thing, right? Predators are everywhere that kids are. They are on homework sites, they are on gaming sites, they are at schools, they are at churches. They are coaches. Predators go where kids go. Predators hang out where kids hang out. Predators online pretend to be someone they are not. It's so important to talk to kids. I know we don't want to scare them, but the reality is we live in a scary world, and if your child is online, they need to know about stranger danger. My son is always asking to connect his PlayStation to the internet, and I won't let him. Even though we talk often about talking to strangers, he is allowed to play games like Roblox, but his account has parental controls that do not allow strangers to message him. You guys can set up parental controls. You can set up parental controls on phones. If they have an iPhone, you can literally um, do everything on your iPhone to protect them. If they have a Android phone, I'm sure there's safeties for that too. I just don't know those. But safeguards are really important. And they can still talk to people, but I really encourage him not to because there's ways around all the safety features, and the people who are trying to get to our kids know that. Okay. As a parent, it is our responsibility to protect our children. And in my opinion, that means having open access to anything he has. Um, and my son knows that. A couple of his friends learned this when they sent a text that I had read and questioned. They were invited into my house, and these kids know me well, to have a conversation with me, and they were informed I own my son's phone and I can look at it or listen to anything on it. You should have seen the look of shock on their face because what had happened is one of them had sent a voice memo, and something about it got my attention, and I listened to it and I was not happy. So, I told them I pay for the service. I bought the phone. It is mine. My son once asked me if he paid for it, if I would still have access to it. Yes, I would. Because in my opinion, he is a gift from God, and it is my responsibility to protect him and teach him. And kids do not have the brain development to always make the right decisions. So we need to help encourage them and we need to teach them. That's my opinion of parenting. But yeah, I'm his mom. It's my responsibility to do what he can. Can I protect him from everything? Absolutely not. That's why we have conversations, because I want him to learn. I don't want him to be scared of the world, but I want him to know the world that he lives in. And of course, we're having age appropriate conversations because the conversations that we're having at 14 are different than conversations that we had at 10. Okay. But we also, his friends know. And when we have a discussion where his friends get to do something that he doesn't get to, we talk about it. I don't just tell him, no, you can't do that. We talk about the dangers of different things and how it is our job to protect him. And he may not always like it, but I do think he appreciates it. I grew up in a very sheltered home, and I know there are people that are like, oh my gosh, you're raising your child so sheltered. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with the fact that I lived in a sheltered home and I was not exposed to some of the things that other people are. Um, I think that's protecting your kids. And again, that's my opinion, and you're welcome to your own as well. So, I have access to his phone at any time. Now, don't make it sound like I'm going and checking his phone 24/7, like I'm all on it. I'm not. If I'm concerned about something, I'm going to open it up and I'm going to look at it. And the day that that text came over, um, I had just picked up his phone because, he's also gotten a lot of spam texts just like the rest of us. And so I picked it up because usually when he gets those, I go in and block people, and I just happened to see the message from someone, and it didn't have a name. He hadn't saved his friend's name. And used to, if you didn't have a name, you couldn't even message him. But that's not set like that anymore because he's meeting friends who wants to put their names in. And so I just happened to look at it and I was like, who is this? And he told me, and it was actually a different kid, but they're brothers, so it worked out. But anyway, so it's my opinion that we should share the dangers. I don't believe that kids should be on social media. Again, my opinion, you get to do what you can, but there are many studies that talk about the dangers of social media, and the younger the kids are, how it affects them and the more it affects them. Self-esteem, confidence, all the different things. FOMO, fear of missing out, wanting to be like everybody else. But again, that's a whole different conversation. So let's get back to human trafficking. Have you heard of the runaway loop? So I don't know if you've noticed, but you don't hear as much about kids being kidnapped anymore as you do running away. I don't know where you live, but where I live, every day it looks like a child has ran away and they are looking for this child. Now, the reason that predators are using running away over kidnapping is because it takes longer to get police involved. Okay. So when a kid's grabbed and they know that they're in immediate danger, police are called immediately, Amber Alert could go out, anything like that. But if a kid ran off on their own accord, that looks a little different, right? So they are being groomed to do this. So predators are actually teaching them to do this. So again, that's why it's important to check their social media accounts, check their gaming accounts, know who they talk to. If a child runs away, it takes longer for police to get involved, which actually benefits the person who convinced them to run away and helps them get together with that child faster. No Amber Alert or anything like that. They start with questioning friends, and then they're not as proactive in investigating. Now, I hope that this runaway loop gets out there more to where they do start investigating sooner, because red flags are happening and your child may be targeted. So here, let's talk about some red flags. Not all kids are taken. Some kids live at home and live normal lives in a normal community. Adults who always want to be around your child and are always trying to be alone with them, that's a red flag. If your child starts showing up with expensive gifts like electronics, for a lot of kids, they're into kicks now. So if they come with new shoes that are expensive, these are red flags that you need to question. Okay. If your child has low self-esteem, low confidence, anything like that, and they spend a lot of time on gaming devices talking to their friends, be aware of who they are really talking to. So just the other day, I saw a parent asking why Fortnite has not been shut down after a man lured 6 boys from the game. It has happened on other games too. I know I've seen it on Roblox. Instead of shutting down the games, be aware, have conversations with your kids. Teach them that people online may not be who they say they are. Remind them not to give out any information or accept gifts from these people, from these friends, their online friends. Chances are that man messaged 100 or more kids, and these 6 are the ones who started talking to him and opening up to him. And these people, they know what to say to kids, especially kids who don't have parents who are all up in their business. They can turn anything around and be very manipulative. And it can happen on Fortnite, it can happen on Minecraft, it can happen on Roblox, it can happen on any other game. These predators will be their best friend and make them so comfortable that opening up to them and telling them everything, it's not an accident, it's intentional. They're grooming them. Don't be scared, but be aware. You are your child's biggest advocate. Give them attention and love. Be interested in their life and their friends. Be so present in their life, it makes it harder for somebody else to gain access. I know my son likes to talk about his games that he plays, and I will sit and I will listen to him, and sometimes I'm sure my eyes are like glazed over because I'm just like, okay. But you know what? I'm being interested in something that he's interested in, and I feel like that's really important. Okay. So I pray God's protection over my son every day. He's growing up in a different world than I did. I grew up in a sheltered home, and I hope that he is too. I'm okay with that. I'm thankful my parents didn't allow me to get exposed to all the crazy in the world. I hope one day that he is just as thankful. So I am praying for you and your family as you navigate this world together. Again, this information is not to scare you or make you anxious in any way. It's really just to be more informed. The more informed we are, the better we can be parents for our children. And the more we know what's going on around them, the more we can be proactive in protecting them. So, again, I am Terry with Hope and Healing Podcast, and I hope that you have a fantastic day. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you again on the next podcast.